Hey everyone, my name is Nathan Cooper and welcome back to SIS Film Breakdowns. The final stop on our NFL Draft Divisional Breakdown Tour brings us to the NFC West. Overall, the NFC West had a couple of our best draft grades, picking up high-end players throughout the entirety of their drafts. Let's go ahead and take a look at a few of the prospects drafted into this division that will look to make an impact for their respective teams, starting with the Cardinals. The Arizona Cardinals made a big move in the offseason, trading away David Johnston to the Texans for DeAndre Hopkins. With the number 8 pick in the draft, they brought more talent to the defense in Isaiah Simmons out of Clemson. Simmons is a chess piece that can play at all levels and immediately makes the defense more athletic and dynamic. In the third round, they took Houston's Josh Jones, an athletic tackle that could turn into a key piece of that offensive line. Their next two selections were defensive tackles Leki Fotu and Rashard Lawrence. Both should be rotational pieces in the middle of that defensive line. They then took linebacker Evan Weaver out of Cal. Weaver is a tackling machine and a force in the run game. Their final selection came at running back, and that was Eno Benjamin out of Arizona State. Let's take a little closer look at what Benjamin could bring the Cardinals offense. At the combine, Benjamin measured in at 5 feet 8 7/8 inches, 207 pounds. He performed pretty well in most drills, including a 39-inch vertical jump, 4.25 shuttle, and 6.9 3-cone. Benjamin was selected as a third-team AP All-American after a 2018 season that saw him carry the ball 300 times for 1,642 yards, both school records. Voted as an offensive captain in 2019 as a junior, he finished 7th on Arizona State's all-time rushing list, even though he only really had 2 full seasons of production. The Cardinals kept him in the state of Arizona by selecting him in the 7th round with the 222nd overall pick. We're going to take a look at a couple of his plays from last season's games against Sacramento State and Washington State. This first play came early in the season against Sacramento State, and it's going to showcase his receiving ability. Benjamin is going to run an angle route here out of the backfield. Now once he gets by the line, the middle of the field is completely vacated and he's able to make a strong hands catch here in the middle. After the catch, he puts a move on the safety and then shows his speed, outrunning all of the defenders and taking it 70 plus yards for a touchdown. The next play comes from the Washington State game. Benjamin is going to shoot to the left A gap, and at the snap we see the linebacker to the right come over to take that gap. Once he shows, Benjamin's quick reaction time allows him to stick his foot in the ground and burst through the hole and by the over-pursuing linebacker into wide open grass as he takes it 32 yards for the touchdown. Kenyon Drake hasn't carried the ball more than 170 times in a season in the NFL, so Benjamin has a great shot to win the number 2 job and earn significant playing time for the Cardinals as both a runner and receiver. When taking a look at Benjamin's career as a rusher, he averaged 5 yards per carry with over 3 yards after contact per rush and a 50% positive play rate on zone runs. As a receiver, he accounted for 625 receiving yards and almost 6 yards per target. The Rams were without a first-round pick, but they had picks 52 and 57 in the second round. Those selections were running back Cam Akers and wide receiver Van Jefferson. Both should bring a spark to that offense. Terrell Lewis will help the pass rush off the edge, and Terrell Burgess has the versatility to move around in the secondary. Bryson Hopkins also gives Jared Goff another weapon from the tight end position. The two players we're going to take a closer look at are Akers and one of their late round selections, linebacker Clay Johnston. First up for the Rams is Florida State running back Cam Akers. Akers measured in at 5 feet, 10 3/8 inches, 217 pounds at the combine. He put up good numbers in drills with a 4.47 40-yard dash, 35.5-inch vertical, and 20 reps on the bench press. As an early entrant into the NFL draft, Akers leaves FSU with the 6th most rushing yards in school history. Only the 3rd Seminole to post multiple 1,000-yard rushing seasons, Akers was named 2nd team All-ACC in 2019, having run for over 1,100 yards and 14 touchdowns. The Rams drafted him in the middle of the 2nd round at pick number 52 overall. Let's take a look at a play from his 2018 game against Florida and a 2019 game against NC State to see what Akers brings to LA. The first play comes from the Florida game. Akers is lined up in the backfield, and at the snap, he's going to wheel out and run a seam down the middle of the field. He splits the safeties, and although the ball is a little high, he goes up with one hand, tips him to himself as he falls off balance, and then brings it in for a touchdown. This is a heck of a grab for the score. He's not a natural pass catcher, but had plenty of receptions in his college career to be an effective receiver out of the backfield. The next play is from the NC State game. It's going to be a zone run up the middle that Akers is going to bounce to the right side. Now once he gets the handoff, he does a good job sticking his foot in the ground and bouncing to the right. Once he sees that his blocker is to the inside, walling the linebacker out, he shows very good awareness here to stick his foot in the ground and get vertical inside of his block. At that point, he breaks through a few arm tackle attempts and shows his speed to run away from the defenders into the end zone. Akers is a tough runner, and now that Todd Gurley has moved on to Atlanta, he's got a pretty clear shot to compete and win the starting running back job for the Rams. His 2019 season saw him average nearly 5 yards per carry with positive play rates of 43% outside the tackles, 44% inside, and 48% in zone schemes. Next up for the Rams is Baylor linebacker Clay Johnston. At the Combine, Johnston measured in at 6'1" even, 227 pounds, but was unable to work out due to a knee injury he suffered mid-season, which limited him to only 6 games. He's missed a lot of time over his career, and even with the missed time each of the last 2 years, he still managed to be named second team All-Big 12 both seasons. The Rams took a chance on him in the 7th round, drafting him with the 234th overall pick. We're going to take a look at a couple of his plays from last season's game against Kansas State. This first play has Johnston in the C gap to the right of the offensive formation. The receiver is going to come in jet motion, and this first view is at real speed. As the receiver takes the handoff on the jet sweep, Johnston reads it quickly, not biting on the O-line blocking to the left. He bursts out of his stance and runs down the ball carrier, taking him down for a loss on the play. Now once we get to the tight copy, we see Johnston read the motion, see the handoff, burst out, and close on the ball carrier for a loss on the play. The next play is going to see Johnston drop into coverage. He's lined up in the middle of the defense here. Now the receiver at the bottom of the screen is going to run a drag across the middle of the field. The number 3 on the trip side is going to run a deep cross to clear out and open up the dig coming from number 2 here. So now at the snap of the ball, Johnston does a good job keeping his eyes on the quarterback while he's still getting depth in his drop and sensing what is going on around him. As the quarterback makes the throw, Johnston has the athleticism to read the throw and then jump in the air to get a hand on the pass. The tip leads to an interception by his teammate. Now, once we get to the other copy, we can see Johnston with his eyes on the quarterback, with a good feel for the receivers behind him as he drops. He reads the trajectory of the throw and then gets up to tip the pass. It's picked off by his teammate and taken back for a touchdown, although it gets called back here. This is a really good athletic play from Johnston. Johnston obviously has to overcome all of the injuries, and most recently the knee injury he suffered last season. But if he does, he has the skill set to play and contribute at the next level in the middle of that Rams defense. In looking at his injury-shortened 2019 season, Johnston made 57 tackles with an eye-popping adjusted tackle depth plus of 150. He also had a 37% pressure rate when rushing the passer and only allowed 5.8 yards per target on 12 targets in coverage. Coming off a Super Bowl loss to the Chiefs, the 49ers only made 5 draft picks in the 2020 draft, but they got some solid talent. Jauan Kinlaw with their first selection is a big-time playmaker in the middle of the defensive line that lost to Forrest Buckner to Indianapolis. With their second first-round pick, they took wide receiver Brandon Ayuk to give Jimmy Garoppolo another big-time weapon on the outside. Tackle Colton McKivitz and tight end Charlie Werner should serve as rotational depth for the offense. Their final selection is who we are going to highlight, and that's Tennessee wide receiver Jauan Jennings. At the Combine, Jennings measured in at 6 feet 3 1/8 inches, 215 pounds. He only did 3 workouts and didn't perform very well, which is likely part of why he slid in the draft. He put up a 4.72 in the 40, 29-inch vertical, and 9 foot 11-inch broad jump. Jennings isn't going to wow in shorts, but when the pads go on, we get a sense of what he brings to the table. A team captain in 2019, Jennings leaves Tennessee 5th in receptions, 4th in receiving yards, and tied 5th in touchdown catches. San Francisco drafted him in the 7th round with the 217th overall pick. We're going to watch a couple of his plays from last season's games against South Carolina and Missouri. The first play comes against South Carolina. Jennings is lined up in the slot as the number 2 to the left side of the offense. Off the ball, he attacks the defender, and once he eats his cushion, bursts into a second gear to get past him into his fade. He's created some good separation here and now has an uncontested catch opportunity. With the ball thrown well to the sideline, Jennings reaches back, tips the ball to himself, and then makes the catch. That's one of the toughest catches to make as a receiver, being able to contort your body back against the grain while still having concentration to even get hands on the ball and then tip it up to make the grab. This other view gives a really good look here at how much he really has to twist his body back to get his hands on the ball, the concentration to make the grab, and the awareness to stay inbound securing the catch. Next is the play against Missouri. Jennings is lined up as the number 2 to the left side of the offensive formation. He's going to run an out route at about 6 yards. At the snap, he fires out of his stance upfield, and at 5 yards, he speed cuts to the outside. As the ball approaches, he uses strong hands to secure the catch. No, Jennings isn't a burner, but this is what he does best. After a couple of stutters here, he stiff arms one defender, then sidesteps another before breaking off another tackle attempt from the first defender to get into the end zone for the touchdown. Now on the other view, we see the hands catch, the broken tackle, and then the stop-start here to slip by the second tackle attempt. I mean, look at this dude, number 78. He's so upset with himself that he misses this tackle. This is an all-around great play from Jennings. Jennings is a big receiver who isn't going to run away from defenders, but he'll lower his shoulder and gain extra yards after the catch, something he'll bring to the Niners offense. When looking at last season's stats, Jennings averaged 10.2 yards per target with a 27% target share in the Vols offense, and gained over 7.5 yards after the catch per reception. His 21 broken tackles ranks second among all receivers with at least 75 targets. Finally, our last team is the Seattle Seahawks. With their first selection, Seattle made their defense a little faster with Texas Tech's Jordan Brooks at linebacker. Then they added to the edge with Darrell Taylor, a strong pass rusher out of Tennessee. Damian Lewis could work his way into one of the guard positions, but should at least provide solid depth on the O-line. The first of 2 tight ends selected by the Seahawks, Colby Parkinson out of Stanford, is who we're going to take a closer look at and see what he could possibly bring to Seattle's offense. Parkinson measured in at 6 feet 7 1/4 inches, 252 pounds at the combine. He put up some solid numbers for his size while in Indianapolis with a 4.77 40, 4.46 shuttle, and 18 bench reps. An early entrant as a junior, Parkinson played 39 games for the Cardinals, accounting for nearly 1,200 yards and 12 touchdowns. Parkinson started all 12 games in 2019, garnering second-team All-Pac-12 honors. The Seahawks drafted him in the 4th round, number 133 overall. We're going to take a look at a play from his 2018 game against Oregon and a play from his 2019 game against Northwestern. This first play comes from the Northwestern game early last season. Parkinson is the number 3 to the trip side in motion, working away from the ball. It's going to be a bubble screen to the number 2. At the snap, Parkinson gets out in front of the receiver and comes in one-on-one with the corner. He comes in under control, and once he's in position, attacks and takes the defender to the ground. He obviously has the size advantage, but the corner could have just as easily gotten by with his quickness, but does the right thing, jumping to the outside and forcing the ball carrier back upfield. Parkinson shows that he can help as a blocker on the outside. The next play is from overtime against Oregon in 2018. Parkinson is lined up as a single receiver to the left side at the top of the screen. He's going to run a go route. At the snap, he attacks the corner who is playing outside leverage. It's best not to get contacted here, but even though he does, his size allows him to fight through a smaller defender. It's not a great ball as it's put up to the outside and behind him, but Parkinson shows good athleticism and concentration to reach back and tip the ball to himself for the score. On the other view, we get a good look here of him using his long frame to reach back, tip the ball to himself, and make the catch for the touchdown, which would ultimately be the game-winning score. Parkinson's long frame and receiving ability should help Russell Wilson in Seattle. He's used to being split out, but can play inline on occasion. He wouldn't usually play inline unless they went 2 tight end sets at Stanford. In 2019, he split out over half the time at 54%. 68% of his receiving yards came through the air, suggesting he can stretch the field a bit, and an 89% on-target catch rate shows he can haul in catchable passes with regularity. Now, what questions need to be answered moving forward in the NFC West? Do the Niners have the complete team to make another Super Bowl run? A top 5 offense and defense, can the Seahawks keep wreaking havoc in the NFC? After a disappointing 2019, can the Rams bounce back and put up the type of season like they had in 2018 when they went to the Super Bowl? A new-look offense with plenty of weapons for Kyler Murray, can the Cardinals compete in arguably one of the toughest divisions in the NFL? We'll see what sort of contributions the 2020 draft class has on the NFC West over the next few seasons and find out what the answers are to these questions. Make sure to go get the SIS Football Rookie Handbook or register for a free trial on the SIS DataHub to see all of these stats and more for every player, and also tune in each week to the Off the Charts podcast. Thanks for watching SIS Film Breakdowns.